Have you seen this man, Rhino? Please send him to Mind for the Game podcast. Send all tips to me, Rusty Shackleford Dota. You can reach me on Discord. I would plug my phone number, but some of you are crazy, so please don't text me.
Do you think that if Rhino was there, do you think we'd see OTF in playoffs?
I want to hear the unleashed version of Rusty Shackleford.
Oh boy.
Welcome everyone to, I think, what is episode maybe number 9 of Mind for the Game podcast. We are joined tonight by the lovely IPA and Rusty Shackleford, as always. Unfortunately, missing one member of our podcast. One of the hosts has gone a bit AWOL this week, which we'll get into in a bit. But what's up, guys? How you doing tonight?
I'm good.
I'm doing really well. You know, the world is healing. I just lost a 70-minute Dota pub. And I fucking hate ranked matchmaking. The past week, it's been absolutely awful. So doing really well, thank you.
Dude, mine too. I think I dropped 400 MMR in the last, 2 days.
I don't understand. I'm getting people with really toxic comms. Which is probably karma for me having toxic comms, so I'll just say I deserve it and move on.
Are you toxic in pubs?
Only when they're going badly. If I have 3 bad days, I'll start getting mad. It's a vicious cycle. What can you do?
I see. I understand that better than most. IPA, how about you? How's your week going? Are you healing as well? Do you have toxic pubs?
I keep losing, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't feel like I'm playing that poorly. It's like one of those times where I feel like I'm outperforming whoever's in the opposing role, and still losing and not understanding decisions that my teammates are making. So it has been a little bit frustrating. The times that I get position for Kez, I absolutely want to claw my eyes out, but some games have been good, some games have been bad. I'm looking forward to 82L though, where I have control over some of the animalistic decisions of my teammates.
Hey man,
you do? What's that like?
Yeah. Right.
Pause for Kez is good though. I will challenge you on that one. But
yeah.
we've
all seen your pause for opinions, Chev.
I 100% think it's good if the person knows what they're doing with the Phantom Rush.
Yeah. Pause for Kez in Ancient Bracket, I do not trust.
They're probably using that one shitty stance that doesn't do any. If you use the I think it's the Soto Sai stance or whatever. Whichever one has the Phantom Rush and the Silence.
Yeah.
It is a good support, but I think the other one's pretty bad in fight.
You can't use Katana as a support, I don't think. But I guess that's good. A good little intro. So we do have a new hero joining us in Dota 2. Kez, the fantastic melee invoker type hero that everyone's talked about. I guess before we get into our 80-12 news, I would love to hear what you guys think of Kez as a hero. What roles do you think it functions best in? How you think it's doing in pubs lately? I know it started off with a 28% win rate or something horrific like that. Now it's pretty up there. But yeah, what do you guys think of Kez?
I think he's a good hero. I like him. I like having him on my team when someone knows what they're doing. I think he is good as a pause 1 or a pause 4. I don't really think other roles are that good. I think the non-katana stance is good when you're a support. And I think his lifesteal's like bullshit. I still don't understand. That one seems like it does too much healing. Kind of pisses me off a bit. But I do think he's really cool. He's a very unique hero. People say, oh, he does too much. But in reality, the shared cooldown kind of limits the everything nature of his kit because you can only choose one at a time. So I think he's pretty balanced at this point. I don't think he's like OP, but maybe he didn't need like such good buffs right from the start. So I think he's probably like a better than average hero, and I like his kit. It's very unique.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the hero and the design. This is like actually reminds me a little bit of some of the Heroes of Newerth heroes that I fell in love with a long time ago. And when this hero first came out, like I was reading his abilities, I was like, this is exactly the kind of hero that I enjoy. I disagree though, as this was obviously indicated when I said previously. I don't think he's good as a support. I think he's crap. I don't think he has reliable enough disables. I think if you're using your W for the silence, it's very underwhelming. And in lane, I think he's like totally useless against any type of safe lane that can run you down, because he has no escape and he's very weak. So I don't like him in support. I like him as carry. I also like him as mid. I've only played him once, and I played him mid, and it went pretty well against the Pudge, and then kind of fell apart after the laning phase. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the hero, looking forward to it, and it seems like Ags is almost a necessity on this hero, and like totally raises the skill ceiling to play the hero.
Interesting takes. I think personally that this hero is bonkers on. I think it can be played mid. I think it's more likely to be a 1 or a 4 though. Like Rusty's saying, I think that. I mean, the Phantom Rush is just like the most broken shit in Dota. Like nobody can trade with you when you take this at level 1. Today I played at mid and I dove a Pango under his tower for like 2 waves in a row, and it just didn't matter because you have so much armor and you just shit out damage at level 2 on this hero, even level 1. So I don't know. I think the Q, the Phantom Rush spell is probably a little overtuned, but other than that, I think it's one of the most balanced heroes upon release that we've ever seen in Dota. I think it's just like really high skill. That's why the win rate is so low. Probably maybe a little overtuned now, but I don't know. I think the hero is like it. I agree with you guys though. It is really cool, like a super fun kit, like really creative. And there's also like creative ways you can play it. I think that the parrying thing, the E on the Soto side, is like one of the coolest spells that we have in Dota. Like that blocking thing. I love spells like that. So very cool stuff. And I hope to see some pros kind of like figure it out and min-max the hero to have it be interesting. Would you right now would you say that Kez is ready for captain's mode? No changes right now.
No, it's too soon to see
Too
how
soon?
good he is. I think Ringmaster could probably go in.
You think so?
Yeah, maybe another like very small nerf, and he'd be good to go in my opinion.
IPA,
I think I would
you let
rather
him in?
have Kez than Ringmaster in Captain's Mode. I think
Really?
Ringmaster is more. I think Ringmaster is more broken than Kez.
I agree. I think Ringmaster is so
Maybe.
stupid. Like,
I think he's pretty strong, definitely.
I hate Ringmaster, man. I want that every time that stupid little box comes out when a hero's about to die and then the fight gets turned. It is my least favorite thing in pubs. I just think save heroes are too good. Like every save hero is so annoying in the game.
I mean, they're annoying. Some of them are fine though. Like Oracle's has a good use, but I don't think he's not like OP or anything.
Yeah, that's probably just because I try to kill heroes in my pubs and then they don't die because there's
That's your
some
first
save hero.
mistake.
Yeah, that's probably true. Honestly, don't go on people in pubs. Wait till they go on you. All right. Well, enough on Kez. Let's get into the good stuff, the meat of the pod. 82L. So
You want to get into your meat?
let's get into my meat.
We can discuss.
We had a tiebreakers last week. Coming up on week 1, we saw a few teams leave Conqueror Division. I don't know about Champ. Rusty will have to fill us in a minute, but we had to say goodbye to 2, I think, fantastic teams. Merrill, Kalen, whatever, MHK fan club.
Merrill Howard Kalen fan club.
MHK, bro. MHK fan club. And one of the teams of the
Guys,
pod
only
hosts.
the fam.
Only the
the fam is
fans.
gone.
Only the fan is gone. They have They've breathed their last breath in Conquer this season. The best mid in Conk is gone. Did not make playoffs. Him and his family, and the missing guest Rhino. Whew. It was a brutal.
Shout out to his family, guys.
It was brutal. What
I'd say it's a bummer, honestly.
It is. It's a huge bummer. There's a lot of content gone because of that. But what do you guys think of OTF missing playoffs, MHK missing playoffs after their crazy good start to the season?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned a lot of content missing with OTF being knocked out. Rhino, you've been really quiet so far in the podcast. Do you mind telling us your thoughts?
He wasn't even there, man. What thoughts?
Those you can edit in some cricket noises, Chev. Nice. So
I didn't know we were ready for that unlock.
Yeah, that's really good now. I am definitely disappointed in OTF. Because it made my prediction wrong. Because I did get the predictions for tiebreakers correct. That it would be Spooky Scary Skeletons, MHK, and OTF. But I had OTF coming out of it. But I remember saying something along the lines of like Spooky Scary Skeletons is one of those teams that I think could end up top 4 or just not even make the playoffs. So it's almost fitting that I've been the only person considering them legit all season to now face them in the first round of lower bracket.
Do you feel glad that you're playing them in lower bracket as opposed to one of the other two teams between Krill Eater and Savage?
Yeah, definitely. I think the 5th seed is a big advantage in lower bracket. Personally, I think Savage and Krill are both teams that I wouldn't be surprised if they made a lower bracket run all the way to grand finals. And I think having you guys knock one or the other out is a huge advantage to everyone else in playoffs.
And we don't play lower bracket. Don't play each other until if one of them make it until like week 3 or something, right?
You got to win 2 games, and then you play each other. So, like, we play the upper bracket losers of the first round as our next match if we win, but the following match would be the 2 lower bracket teams left before we play lower bracket finals.
Yeah. Okay. Did you guys get to catch the tiebreaker games, by the way? Did you see them?
Watch them all?
Yes, I watched a good bit of it.
What were your thoughts?
Both.
You casted both. All right. You're casting.
I watched a lot of the Spooky Scary Skeletons versus only the fans.
What were your thoughts? We did have a stand-in. I will say we had Wild Daddy stand in for Rhino, who is, as we said before, still missing. Was missing the night of when his team needed him most. He vanished. And is still missing. Have not heard from him since then. I hope, truly, jokes aside, I hope he's okay. Hope he's doing well. But yeah, I mean, those games were rough. So, what do you think?
Oh boy. I think that game 1, let me start. Oh my god, there's so much to say. Let's talk about what OnlyFans did wrong. Itemization. Really poor itemization in game 1. I saw Bristle went some very wrong items. Did not get Bloodstone. They bought 2 pipes for some reason. I don't think anyone had a Solar Crest. Let me go take a look at the games. I saw a lot of just some not great coordination, I would say. Like they had this Legion commander, but they had Tusk. So there definitely was potential to, turn it around if someone got dueled other than Tusk. We saw blunted stat padding, but ultimately losing the game. And I think, Bristle went for Ags Lincolns. They had no solar from anyone. Could have been bought by Tusk, could have been bought by...
I will say Tusk played really well in this game.
Dark Willow? Yeah, he did look like he was playing pretty well, but I don't think Pipe is the right choice. I mean, they already had one, obviously. I mean, you have Treads on Axe. That makes no sense at all.
They did already have
one. That's probably
like
the worst boots you can buy on the hero, I would say.
Yeah, I don't understand the Treads on Axe. I was so confused by that.
I just saw spooky, scary skeletons. Well, first of all, the stand-in situation with Hexy, that was a really good pickup. I'm not gonna say anything's unfair. I mean, he's completely fine. But it was a really good pickup. And they got him, in my opinion, his best hero, Legion. That's one I always ban against Hexy because he actually plays it really well. And generally will just carry the game solo. And that seemed like what he did here. And I just think spooky, scary skeletons had much better coordination, probably a lot better communication, because I saw OTF just looks like they were all over the place, buying 2 pipes, no solar, bristle bought shit items, didn't get bloodstone. So yeah. And then game 2, I'm gonna just say they completely punted it and gave up. Because these picks are completely unserious, and switching your really good mid player to carry randomly against Hexy when your other guy is a lot lower MMR and probably just strictly worse at mid.
It was also
is,
it was a really like mediocre Terrorblade performance from Blunted.
in my opinion, it's just a complete punt. And I think spooky, scary skeletons heroes were good against Terrorblade in the first place. So I think it was a horrible pick. And they had Ogre Magi offlaned, which again, I'm like, I just don't think you're trying to win. And he went for Radiance and Vanguard. And I think you're triple trying not to win if you do that. So I think they just really kind of either consciously or unconsciously completely gave up. And it's a bummer to see.
I'm going to ask you guys a really unfair question now. Do you think that if Rhino was there and Spooky Scary Skeletons had their normal mid player instead of Hexy, do you think we'd see OTF in playoffs?
No,
I
I think Spooky Scary Skeletons would have won anyways.
IPA?
Yeah, I mean, I do, but that was my prediction before the games were played. So I mean, it's just being consistent with what my read on the teams were before. But I will tell you this much: I think if you look at the Spooky Scary Skeletons OTF games, I feel like Spooky Scary Skeletons almost won strictly on draft, like both games. And I'm not saying that you can't win with the drafts that were here, but I felt like both games, Spooky Scary Skeletons pretty handily outdraft OTF. And I think you're just not getting enough from. I mean, like game 1, a support Tusk that went pipe did more hero damage than the Dark Willow or the Axe. Like, you just can't have that. Like, you can't win the game. Like, Tusk is not a hero that does damage on support. And like game 2, the Dark Willow has like 6,000 hero damage. It's just like you need to like some impact from that position 5, and I don't think there was any at all this game. Whereas like Dr. Spike, I felt like had impact as a position 5 in both of these series. So I felt like it was a pretty huge support diff. Even though I thought Bluntman's Tusk was one of the better performances in the whole series.
I saw Dr. Spike. I think overall Skeletons had better team fighting, better warding, better team play, coordination on the map. Seemed like they had a lot better direction.
The best shot calling below Heroic.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's not true, but whatever. Anyways, that's just crazy. If that was true, you wouldn't be. Let me check my notes. Legend 4. Okay. Probably not true. But anyways, I will say for Conquer, they had good direction and team play. So, whoever's the captain there, kudos. But I still think Spooky Scary Skeletons, I think OTF all season, their problem was not being coordinated, not being on the same page, maybe getting some lackluster performances from a couple different players. And I mean, we took issue with the off lanes items in these games, which it is a stand-in, but still. And we've definitely seen Rhino do some trolling with his items and hero picks as well. So I'm just not convinced. I think Spooky Scary Skeletons would have still won the series. And I think maybe it might have been 2-1 instead of 2-0, but I mean, I will say if Rhino was around, I highly doubt this awful role swap disaster would have happened, and I doubt they would have picked some of these absolutely just awful picks. Just throwing in the towel type of picks.
I think in game 2 they did just throw it in. Like I don't see how you could win with that draft. Even in game 1,
I think you can. It's just I mean, there's like any game can be won in 82. Almost even those. There's definitely times where you can point and say, okay, this team won the draft, and they probably win this like 80% of the time. Like if it's a big out draft, and this is probably one of them. Like Spooky Scary Skeletons just has a very balanced lineup, and OTF has like 4 heroes that do similar things in terms of like single target burst, right? Or really like most of them are pretty single target. Most of them are very susceptible to being jumped and burst themselves. And none of them really buy like proper team items that you need this patch. Like we don't really have a good pipe builder, don't really have a great solar crest builder. And it was just a really bad Terrorblade pick. So for me, I still think Spooky Scary Skeletons had a lot more going for them. Maybe Rhino would have kept the guys on track, but I still don't see the result being different.
So I want to talk a little bit about Blunted specifically, and kind of a 2-part question. Blunted is obviously a really high skill player, but this is now, I think he's missed playoffs 3 out of his last 4 seasons. Last season, obviously, he was in Warrior, so a little bit lower skill, and also he got disqualified for having like 4 undisclosed alt accounts or something like that. But even before that, I think he missed playoffs.
Well, yeah, he
obviously
missed it because he literally couldn't participate.
Right, but the seasons before that in 82L, I think Blunted's most of the time missed playoffs. Do you think that Blunted is, besides obviously on the time that he teamed with IPA, do you think that Blunted is kind of like held back by team most of the time? And then on that note, do you think that raw skill is enough to win 82L games? And I'm not talking raw skill in terms of like this person is a like 8K player playing in a 5K average league. Like, do you think that someone who's just really high skilled is able to carry their team enough in a more competitive and organized environment? And then also, again, do you think that Blunted was able to... Do you think Blunted just missed playoffs because he struggles in the team environment, or maybe he's just getting unlucky with teammates or choosing the wrong teammates, maybe? Let's hear from you first, IPA.
Well, he played 2 seasons with Malibu, so I'm going to go ahead and say
definitely
teammates are a big factor in that statistic. And like, I mean, there's like some cope here, but I definitely think if you look at the season where we made playoffs and went out 8th to Helmets On, in which Helmets On subsequently won the next season at Conquer, and they lost to Rogers Internet in that season. And I think we look like the best team against Helmets On all season, including the playoffs. I think that's just a hard first round draw. They were hot and they beat us. I think we could have easily won that season if we'd have overcome Helmets On in that 2-1. And maybe like the story of Blunted is a little bit different then. So I mean, I'll take a little bit of blame for the history on that. I don't actually think Blunted is just like a button clicker, which I feel like your question insinuates the idea that he is good at clicking buttons and that's where it stops.
No. I think he's high skill in general.
Okay.
But go ahead.
But I think he has his issues, and I think his issues are more prevalent in Captain's Mode than they are in other forms of play. And I've talked to him about this before. I think his biggest weakness has always been he cares so much about his KD, and he will start tilting if his KD is negative, and he will like actually stat pad and kill steal in the game. And sometimes I think his fear of dying actually holds back his effectiveness to a team.
I've heard similar things, and I think that's probably a fair statement. I was going to say the same as IPA. I think the one season he got really unlucky with first round matchup, and I think that ended 2-1, right? Like you barely lost.
Yeah, it was a
super
super
close
series for sure. And yeah, it was 2-1. Like they beat us with Ouch Life Stealer game 1, and then we beat them game 2, and then game 3 was just like a very close back and forth. We just didn't have it.
I think a lot of it is his own mistakes. Playing with Malibu is a mistake. Horrible mistake for anyone. Playing on alt accounts without disclosing them, that's just your own fault. They probably would have won last season. I think they were 10-0 with Blunted and still made it far with Cafe, like third, I believe. And this season I would put it in the camp of, no pun intended, probably bad teammates. Or like, I do think he's part of the
Bro,
problem.
that's the family, bro.
But I think that the team was around him was pretty lackluster from what I saw.
Okay.
And it came together very last minute, so it's kind of not surprising. Like you're kind of picking off the scrap heap or getting relative unknowns at that point.
On that second note then, do you think that just having a really high skill player without like the team coordination, the good drafting, like let's say the rest of the functions of your team are pretty poor in comparison to the competition, like you don't have good drafting and you don't have like good comms, good team coordination, but you have a really high skill player, like one player who's like easily the best in the league, will win their lane every single game, like have a lot of impact. Do you think that that's enough in 82L?
No, not anymore. Like 10 seasons
No.
ago, yes. Now, no.
Because of the
Yeah.
nature of like the meta, or because of what?
I think there's just too many good people and too many good people who are friends that like to team up. That would make it hard.
Yeah, I also think like Dota as a game has changed a lot. I think it's almost impossible to solo carry in this game anymore.
The map's really big, so it is hard to do that because
I
people
just
can
think,
dodge you
too,
easier.
The power creep has made it so that like someone who's incredibly strong, the gap is not as large as it used to be back in the day, as us old folks would say. But I mean, there were games, 10+ years ago where I could load into a pub and know that like if no one good was on the other team, like it was over because I could just carry it by myself, and it's just not possible. And I've had like one, like maybe like I can count on one hand the number of games I've had since I came back to Dota 2 where I was like 15k net worth on the server at like 40 minutes and like was solo carrying even though my team was feeding. It's just so hard now.
Okay.
What do you think, Chev?
I think it's like kind of hard. Like I think definitely it's less important than it used to be to have like a star standout player. And I think it is also like that's kind of a consequence of the patch and like the map changes. But I also think it's just that people have gotten better at playing together, and playing together isn't punished as much as it used to be. Like split pushing is not a viable option in Dota right now. So it just feels like now if whatever team is more coordinated and wins the first really important early to mid game team fights are gonna win the game, because it's like comeback mechanics don't exist in the same way that they used to. The map is massive, snowballing is real, and you just group up behind your Medusa or Shadow Fiend or Luna and you put Solar Crest on them and they take towers, and it's kind of like brain dead. And there's like the Roshan's banner thing that just lets you end the game. So I think that it's like it's just easier to close a game out. And I think that people are just better at doing it. People are better at like following the procedure of like playing together in Dota. So it's harder to punish mistakes and things like that as like one single standout player. Yeah. So I mean I agree with both of you said as well. But
I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt though.
Yeah, it definitely is helpful to have somebody who's really good. I just think it's
I'll
like
be more specific. I'll be more specific. You can have 2 bots on your team if the other 3 are extremely good. But you need baseline like 3 very good people to have a good team.
Actually, that's a good point, because in MD2L, I remember that like the games that were the hardest were not because they had one standout star player, but it was that there were 0 bots. Like playing in MD2L, if the enemy team had 1 to 2 bots, it made it so simple to play, because you would just like punish their lower skill players like positioning or like lack of understanding of how wards work or whatever it was, generally the support players, and or punish their lane or something, and it was like you could win like freely, but then once you got to a team where like they had no bot players, like they had 0 low skill players, everyone was like ancient or above, the games got really hard. So I actually think that it's probably better to have 0 bad players than it is to have like 1 star standout player. If that makes sense.
Rusty, when you say this thing about 2 bots on your team, is that because you played multiple seasons with Ozone? Do you feel like it's
No.
easily overcome?
No. No. I think Ozone's gotten a lot better. I think when he was, I will say that's probably an apt description of him like 5 seasons ago on that one team with Dosia and Jamie and Diraj and whatnot. But I think he's actually a pretty good contributor now. I would say their current team, the Twink team and Champ, has like 0 bots. Like even their supports, who I think are not quite as good as the cores, still do a lot and are good Dota players, even if they're not like immortal supports. They still are helpful, so that team's tough. But I wouldn't say that anymore.
Speaking
If
of
anything,
champs,
I'm the
Just one
bot
joke
on my
for our
own team.
British friend.
Friend, I don't know about all that, but
all right. Speaking of champ, I guess segue into our representative from the championship league way up there. Playoffs
yeah,
coming up.
only upper bracket member of the podcast, by the way.
Impressive. Yeah, so we got first round. We know you guys are going up against Dork Horse.
No, we're
sorry,
playing
you're going to
Wasted.
Wasted.
Wasted, yes.
Which, I mean, Dork, you're coming off of a 0-2 against Dork Horse, which I think is a team that got better throughout the season. I know that most of our listeners aren't going to be super familiar with Champ, but they are the team that won last season, and they're playing the top seed, number 1 seed, Twinks and the Twinkier, and then you guys go up against Wasted. Obviously, you're going to say your own team, but do you think that Dork Horse has a chance to take Twink down to lower bracket in round 1?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, I do.
So are you happy with how it played out then, the bracket?
I'd rather play Wasted, yeah.
Why is that?
Actually,
because you 2-0'd Wasted in the early season, right?
Yes, we did 2-0 Wasted. I think we would have I actually would probably a bit rather play Dork Horse, because I think Wasted. No, I'd rather play Wasted. I think Wasted has weaknesses that are a bit easier to pick at, in my opinion. I think the games we won that against them were because of just having better vision, starting fights better, even when we fell behind a bit. And I think our drafting was good against them. Like, I think our supports share a lot of the same heroes, and they're like strong meta picks. So I think drafting against them is a bit more straightforward, in the sense that a lot of the same heroes are going to be contested. So it's kind of, you have a good idea what's coming next. I think they're about equal skill level. Like, Wasted could have 2-0'd us in the regular season, but we just happened to pull out the games. But they were both really close games. And I think Dork Horse, we probably should have won game 1, and then after losing, we sort of just mentally folded a bit. So I think we were just kind of worn out and tired after a long regular season and sort of capitulated in game 2. But yeah, I think Dork Horse has a chance, but I'd still pick Twinks. But I would give them a puncher's chance. I think they are getting better. They've gotten a lot better, for sure.
So Twinks also went 13-1 in the regular season. Maybe 12-2.
They went 12-1 and then kind of goofed off in the last game. So 12-2, but so like really only one real serious loss against Wasted.
Do you think any team has the potential to take them down in playoffs?
Yeah, no, I think anyone can beat anyone. I mean, it's only practice, so I wouldn't read too much into it, but we had a scrim against them and we probably should have won both, but managed to win one, and then the last one was kind of close game.
Do you mean
But,
any of the 4 teams in Champ can take them down?
I would say any 4 teams in Champ plus Mochi could theoretically beat them in a best of 3. But I would favor them probably 75% or higher in the best of 3s.
IPA, do you have any knowledge in a Champ? Do you want to make a prediction for a runner to take out Twinks in Champ?
No, let's keep the quality over quantity, and let's take Rusty's opinions on Champ.
I mean, I do think, I will say I think my team has a higher, probably I would say we have the highest ceiling to possibly beat them because I think we have some of the better like individual players and we have good drafting. But I think sometimes our floor can sink. But
What is your barrier?
maybe that's just
What do you think-
regular season blues.
What is the barrier for you guys hitting the ceiling and reaching your potential in Champ this season? Do you think it is is it emotions? Is it time commitment to playing the game? Is it like buy-in?
No, most people play a lot. I think we have a good level of trust because we're all friends and we play together a lot on numerous different teams. I think it is finding the right hero for Bob and playing around him the right amount and the right ways, like mid game. I would say the games we struggle is like 10 to 20 minutes, like giving Bob a good game and playing around him correctly. So I'd say that's our main barrier, is figuring out the mid game while Bernie farms and finding the right hero for our offlaner.
And making sure Bernie does not die in his jungle when none of the heroes are showing on the map.
Correct.
That's
I
important
would
too.
say that has not happened very often this season. He's
Oh, that's
gotten-
good. That's good.
The AI is learning. AI is learning.
Shout
It's
out
picking up on
Bernie.
these things. It's very good.
Yeah, I think that an offlaner is like probably the key to winning most of your games in Dota 2 right now, is finding ways to enable and play around your offlaner. So that is definitely like finding the ways to give them enough space, but also have them like lead the game and lead the charge. I think is like unlocking that is the way to win Dota, in my opinion. Have you guys scrimmed a lot this season?
Yes, we've scrimmed almost. I would say we've scrimmed probably like 5, 6, 7 times. So about once a week averaged out.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's about like average. IPA, have you guys scrimmed at all this season? Because I think that I've asked you to scrim and you said we do not play together.
We have played as 5 and officials only.
Wow.
And given the fact that Palace is out for work some weeks and Fatality was gone the first 3 weeks of the season, I think we've actually only played as our true 5 roster like 4 games this whole season.
Oh wow, that's like nothing.
Ever. Yeah.
That's like one night of pubs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so that's a good question then. Do you guys think that does scrimming help you succeed in the season, and how important do you think it is? Do you think that it's like something that you need to actively do to succeed, or do you think it doesn't matter at all? Or like, talk to me about scrims, because I think that a lot of people don't scrim at all, and I think they find a lot like Helmets On never scrimmed, and they won, and they almost won twice. So, yeah, give me your thoughts on scrims and how important they are.
I think they are important. I think they make you better. I think it does vary team to team, though. I think the friend stacks and the teams that have played together for longer, I think scrimming is way less important. And I think the teams that are new and still trying to learn each other, their hero pools, I think scrimming becomes exponentially more important the less experience you have with the players on your team.
Because you want to learn how to play around them, or because you want to learn like your style, or what?
I think there's a lot of learning through losing that happens in Dota, especially as a team. And also, like, I think the mental aspect too. If you're like a drafter or a shot caller in particular, like I've said this before, one of the hardest things to do when you're drafting is to identify the people who quit at the draft screen. And I've played with a few of those people before. Where
names?
if you draft them a hero,
They do exist.
Name names?
100%.
Trust me, if you draft them a hero they don't want to play, they will play probably like 50% worse because they're not playing a hero they actually want to play. I will tell you, I think the people who want to play a hero and get draft dictated to, and then play worse because they were given a specific hero, I think that's like half the league or more potentially.
What do you mean?
I mean, if someone says, "Hey, I'd like to play one of these three heroes," and the captain goes, "No, you're going to play this hero," I think more than 50% of the league plays worse in that specific scenario.
Oh, I agree. I think that if you have a player that says like, I don't want to play this hero in these matchups, if it's because they're like, no, I'm just so bored of this hero, I think that's a little bit different. Like if your carry's like, I don't want to play Medusa, it's so boring, like they need to suck it up a little bit. But if your carry's like, I really don't want to play PA because they have like 15 BKB piercing disables, and then you pick them PA anyway, that's kind of on you as a drafter, right? Even if you're like, well, PA is so good because we have minus armor and that's what our draft is trying to do. But they're like, I'm going to play PA poorly in this draft because I'm just telling you I will, then I think that's when you need to listen to your player maybe. So I think there's a little bit of push and pull, give and take.
Yeah, some people can take it. Some people don't want their hero picked early, which can be another thing to navigate. I think playing together, not necessarily scrimming, but playing together and importantly, like IPA is saying, knowing your team's hero pools, which can come through pubbing. Like I don't think Helmets On needs to scrim because they know what heroes they're good at playing and they know how to play around each other. So I don't think they really, if they're doing 4 or 5 man pubs, like they're getting a lot of valuable practice and information from that, even if it's not official. That being said, I do think playing captain's mode and practicing drafting is helpful for the drafter of the team. That's something we've said this season too, is like, we've really struggled with second pick. Like with this roster, and this patch specifically, I think we've struggled to know what to do with like the early picks and then that final 24 pick. And so doing some captain's mode and practicing or trying some stuff out and seeing if it works, picking it that early, or like who's beneficial to save for the last pick has been helpful. So I would say for an impromptu stack that's kind of free agents coming together, you're almost certainly going to get a lot out of scrimming. It's really the friend stacks or the people who know each other really well that might not need to as much. But for my own team, I'll say, even though we are a group of friends who has played together a lot, we've still gotten a lot of valuable information and practice from scrimming.
So on that note, I know IPA, I want to go back to what you said about learning to lose together or learning through losing. If you lose a game, because my first take on that is that like if you lose with a friend or somebody that you've played with for a while, you're probably not going to just be like, oh, this guy sucks. Like we lost because of a different reason. And then you think about the game more critically. But if you lost with somebody like Cloud, who you've played, I mean, I guess this is a good question for both of you because you both are playing with people that you've played multiple seasons with or have known for years and are like friends with. If you lose with like Rusty, if you lose a game with Edge Timber or IPA, if you lose a game with Cloud, does it feel different to you personally than if you lost a game with, like if you're standing in for someone or like you're on like, let's say you're on a spring mini team or something and you lose games with that stack? Does it feel like, do you have different takeaways? Like, are you just like, oh, I lost because they're bad, or maybe I lost because I played bad or whatever, versus losing with a friend?
So I think the difference for me is if I'm playing with friends, I'm much more likely to whisper select friends about the reason we lost. Like, one of your buddies played like garbage, so you whisper the other one like, "Hey, did you see what Chev did?
Damn,
He was absolute crap in that game,
that
right?"
is so cold, dude. Behind their
So
back.
bad. He's so bad.
Everyone does that.
I've
all right?
definitely done that.
I have
You
never
kind
done
of have
that.
to.
Well,
I think
That
you have
is
to.
fucking cap. No way.
I have never. Okay, actually, I remember one specific
I believe
time.
you.
One specific time I've done it, but I haven't done it in a DM. I've done it like that one person leaves the team call, and then we're all just like, dude, what the fuck was that person
They
doing?
played really bad.
That's the same
Yeah.
thing. Most of the time when I'm playing with friends, I'm able to just say it in team chat to everyone, including them, to their face. So that's obviously the way I prefer to handle things as well, especially if you know the people really well. But it's also like the same thing I was saying for drafting is like, I think if you're in the captain role and you're talking about post game breakdowns, like part of what your job is to consider the team's mental. And if you're just like putting someone on blast that can't handle it, like you need to temper that a little bit because it doesn't help your team at the end of the day. And like to be honest with you, most of the time when I lose, I'm an incredibly self-critical person. So usually I just get really angry about my own play.
Dude, you gotta get on the same page with people if someone's griefing. I'm being serious. I think it's like you gotta fucking figure out how to like untilt that person if they played bad or like fix it somehow.
Googling how to untilt
Definitely
Bernie
think that's real.
Sanders right now.
I mean, he'll just untilt himself, honestly.
What about you, Rusty? Do you get something different out of losses with friends versus losses in one direction or another?
It's definitely easier to like just put it behind you, I think, because there's no resentment at the end of the day. At least in my experience. Like we had a tough loss to Dork Horse, but after we were pretty much hanging around, like still, nobody just left instantly, like getting upset or getting mad or anything. Even like last season, we played against IPA's team, and it's probably VOD probably doesn't exist anymore, but after we lost game 1 to them, basically me and Bob yelled at each other, and then Bob deafened, and then like 5 minutes later we were like back to normal, like nothing happened, and we rallied to win the next one. So I think it's just easier to sort of turn the page and move on from like bad stuff.
That was one of my truly favorite VODs to watch.
That one was really funny in hindsight. If it was
Actually-
lost game 2, I wouldn't feel so good about it, but it ended up working out in the end. Like we just had a stand-in, like it was probably so awkward for them. I just feel bad.
Shout out Angry
It's like,
Son.
I swear we're not normally like this. I swear. I'm sorry.
That was a fun one to watch. All good laughs now though.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think it's dramatically different personally. Like I mean even I've seen people talk about losing on like an RD2L team of people that they don't know, and they're like, dude, I'm so done. Like I don't want to play these guys ever again. That sucked. That wasn't fun. We're so
harder
bad.
to try to fix the stuff because you don't really know everyone. You don't know like what their mindset is. You don't really know how to push their buttons. Like
Yeah.
it's harder to like fix team problems if the team doesn't work from the beginning.
I will say, if I'm playing with friends and I feel like one of my friends is griefing, I get way more pissed at them than I do a random pub. Like a random pub, like just any rando, I just like brush it off as like, this is the DOTA tax. You just have to play 50% of the time with idiots on your team. But when my friends do it in a ranked game, like that shit really bothers me. Like I remember we played a pub with Chev one time, and he played Omni Knight
First
off lane.
mistake.
Yeah, and
That
I
was a
asked
mistake.
him like, "Oh, do you need to like fix your rank for the next season? Like, just tell me so I don't queue with you, please."
I don't fix rank. I just lose
Chevin
sometimes.
is griefing moods
But-
is really something special.
I will say I actually feel the opposite of you, which is really interesting. I find that I get really upset at ranked teammates, like the anonymous people. I'll get super tilted at them if they make a mistake or grief or whatever. And then if it's a friend in a game or even someone I'm just partied with that I know like adjacently or something, I will give them all the grace in the world and be like, I don't care if you grief or you mess up or I don't care if you just accidentally like sold your BKB or something. Like it's all good. It happens. People make mistakes. I think it's I don't know. I find it easier to be compassionate towards people that I know than it is towards anonymous Dota 2 players.
Interesting.
Rusty, you have a take on that?
I might approach it a bit differently. I mean, yeah, I'll probably be nicer.
Nicer
I
to
don't
his
know.
friends?
Some people I play with, I know, like, I don't know. For me, it's a bit different because normally I'm kind of lower on the totem pole, at least in like skill. So you kind of have to push the buttons the right way.
Not on this podcast,
Like,
bro.
I don't necessarily always want to tell my 7K mid laner, like, oh, I think you built the wrong item, or I think you like weren't playing the map right. So it's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit different.
What about your 7K pub mid laner who like feeds 4 times diving a tower?
If I'm in the mood to try to win, I'll be nice for sure. But if I've lost like 4 in a row, I'm probably
It's over.
it's probably over for that guy. Might not have some nice words for him.
That dude is getting USA #1 at the end of the game for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely getting USA #1 at the end. Yeah, that's true.
All right. That's kind of a short pod, but that's all the topics I had for tonight. Do you have anything else we want to say going into week 1 of playoffs? Anything else to cover from the week before?
I want to hear the unleashed version of Rusty Shackleford.
Oh, that is true. Rusty
I
did
want to
say
hear.
that he
I
had
want to hear Connor
said that he
absolutely
had-
spit.
some things to say.
All right, I do have some things to say. I'm gonna just say this is a PSA to the 8-12 community, guys. As I've said before, the thing that separates us, 82L, from the animals, other leagues in the past, and I've been a member of 82L for like since season 30. We're now on season 42, so like 4 years now. The thing that separates us from these other leagues is we have the best community. We have amazing content like Mine for the Game, a Dota 2 podcast. We have camaraderie, a lot of true friendship, and like a really genuinely good community. I just want to say, recently, my perspective, and I know Chev, you feel similarly because we've kind of talked about this privately, but I really feel I've said something about this before, but I really feel it needs to be said again. I think the Conqueror League chatter has become such a noxious, toxic, unpleasant place to be that and I'm consciously trying to kind of withdraw from commenting in there a lot and like participating in these conversations because I just think a lot of stuff that gets said in there nowadays is really detrimental to the community. I think there seems to be so much like pent up resentment. There's always something kind of toxic going on. And maybe I've contributed to this in the past. And if I've been, crossed the line, been mean, been too critical or harsh on somebody in that channel, then I apologize if I've said something that upsets somebody. I apologize. You can always, let me know if I do. But I think with recent behavior in there, people getting banned because of their conduct in there, and just generally people getting mad at each other and always some kind of nonsense going on, always some kind of beef that doesn't need to happen. I just wish that people would behave and get along better in there because it really seems like Champ this season, the channel's been pretty active. We've got a lot of yappers up there, but it never has really crossed the line in the way that it seems like Conquer does on a near daily or weekly basis. Another thing I wanted to say, it really irritates me along similar lines when people say stuff like, oh, why are these people from other divisions coming in here and commenting? Like, just go up and don't talk in here. Like I said, one of the great things about 82L is community, camaraderie. I comment in the Conquer League channel because even though I'm not a member of that division anymore, because my friends are playing. I'm interested in the games. I follow the games. I'm rooting for my friends on Krill Eater and Slow Twitch Muscle Fibers and other teams, Savage Spirits. I want them to do well, and I'm I'm following the goings on of the league, and actually I'm making content that talks about this league too. And I'm being told, oh, like get out of here. You're not wanted here. Don't comment in here. I think it's just a really shit attitude. I think some people say it as a joke, but I think other people genuinely feel that way. And I just think that that kind of sectarian mindset is another thing that's really harmful to 8012. Now, last thing I'll say. We talked about only the fans, and rest in peace to them. They played against the scary skeletons and lost. Wild Daddy was their stand-in. I caught some flack for saying I don't think Wild Daddy was doing his best to win these games. And I got some flack for that, and I think that people took that to mean they don't think Wild Daddy was like trying his hardest while playing Dota. And that wasn't really what I meant, but I feel like if you're standing in for a team versus like playing on your own team that you're signing up for, like there's kind of an expectation that you might be a bit more normal and not like actively grief the team you're standing in for with your absolutely awful items. And honestly, if you're a formerly high MMR player who's fell down here for whatever reasons, but obviously is capable of doing well in 82L, I just struggle to see how you can justify doing this to a team that's, asked you to basically do them a favor and stand in. And coming into the channel afterwards with this woe is me bullshit and this bat chesting about how bad you did and how you feel so bad that they lost, and basically hand waving off any criticism and just doing this self-pity fucking pity party for yourself in Conquer chat is frankly really annoying to me. So I just wish people will behave themselves a bit better. Stop coming into the channel, and no offense, guys, like if you're having some personal stuff happening, maybe a fucking Dota league with a couple thousand people isn't the best place for that either. So keep your self-pity to yourself. Stop being mean to each other. Stop being so goddamn toxic. Stop being the like laughing stock of the league. It's gonna be playoffs. Let's not let the tempers get out of control. Everybody be respectful. Let's have a fun, amazing playoffs. There's like really good teams, upper and lower bracket. So my rant is over. Let's all have a good time. Best of luck to everybody. And let's try to keep that chat nice and healthy for playoffs. What do you say, guys?
I agree with pretty much almost everything you said. I haven't spoken in there in like a week because I do feel like the emotions get too high. I think people just start to snowball one thing into the next and don't know where a joke ends and like truth begins, and then get like super sensitive and super emotional. Which is that's just not what 82L Conquer League chat's supposed to be for. It's supposed to be to talk about the games, talk about Dota and playing at an amateur level and what teams are doing well and all that. And for some reason, it just becomes about everything else. So yeah, I agree with you. And really well said. Really well said, Connor.
It's just not fun anymore in there. And I think that's really the main thing that bums me out. It used to be a fun channel. Sometimes it pop off with drama, but now it just feels like there's never any good conversation happening. Every conversation goes south. Someone's taking something too personally. Someone's being too aggressive. It's just like chill out, guys.
I'll say the Rhino drama in there is always fun. Like Rhino content is fun because it's never that serious.
Even that though, those Zealous Gaming guys, I think took stuff
different.
like way too far.
Yeah,
I'm just like, stop.
Not them, but the other stuff, like the whole like Frost versus Rhino, who's the best offlaner in the league.
Yeah,
like, that kind of stuff is fun.
I do enjoy
like
that.
Subwoofer joining in, posting stats, Rhino posting his LeBron gifs or I don't know, whatever MJ gifs or whoever he's into that month. His flavor of the month, basketball goat. That stuff's fun. So I think we could keep it at that and maybe less of like this super intense emotional breakdowns.
Also, we never talked about Juke's Angels. Anyways, we can get to that really quickly, but IPA, what were you saying?
You guys are I think you guys are perfect examples of maybe the wrong user of ConkChat. I think you're kind of blaming a lot of the general population that exists within ConkChat. But I think if you're like, all right, here's what it take. Your big problem is you're actually reading from people whose opinions and texts you shouldn't read. There are too many people in there that
I
you need to
agree.
just ignore and skip
I
over them, and because there is actually some decent conversation that still happens in Conch Chat. You just have to scroll past and ignore
Yeah, the
the
vocal
people that
minority.
are just literally just shooting from the hip, just random uninformed opinions, and sometimes it's just like toxic garbage, like you said.
You're right. I should have like 15 people blocked in there, honestly.
Dude, but blocking in Discord is horrible because it still says three blocked messages,
Yeah,
and
no,
then
I
your
don't block.
entire
I've never
channel is
blocked
just
anyone.
like, yeah, same. There's no point to blocking, because you just still see like the little notification. It's stupid. But yeah, I would say that makes sense that there is a massive vocal minority that ruins it for everybody else.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Conch Chat serves a purpose for a lot of people. I think there's a reason no one talks in other leagues, and I think the zoo that happens does provide a level of entertainment that I think maybe you guys are discounting for the lurkers who maybe don't even participate.
I mean, Champ League has had a lot of activity this season. I think Heroic League, Voyager in the past have had a lot of activity. So I don't think it's always that being true. But
I
I
think
don't know.
it just became unfun. Like I think that it did have a place, and like the zoo of Conqueror was fun because people participated and talked and read it, and it was like high traffic. But I think it became less fun when certain actors in that space became overly emotional there and overly like sensitive to things, and then it just became really like high tense situation of like everyone's like always on edge, and then it feels like you're talking in a 4chan chat room rather than like a fun Discord like hype space. Do you know what I mean?
People are way too fucking sensitive. Like I don't want to like discount anyone's genuine emotions or negative feelings from someone like saying something not nice to them. But my god, do people like escalate things so unnecessarily sometimes.
And that escalation starts from somebody saying something about Dota usually. Like usually you say something like, "Oh, I don't think that I think this team's a bye week team." And when you say that, that's when like the emotions come in super hard. Or like if you say something like trash talk, that's normal. Like, "Oh, we beat you 2 seasons in a row. Like we're going to win this season." Then all of a sudden, that person gets like almost offended because you said something about them in a space of Dota 2, and then they take it and they're like they start getting like their self-worth has been impacted, which is just one, not the case, and two, they make it into something that it wasn't from the start, I think. And that's I think the main issue for me that has made it a not fun place to banter and talk.
Agreed. Agreed.
But
We never talked about literal match fixing, by the way.
yeah, enough on that. We can briefly, before we say goodbye, briefly talk
I'll just say
about
this.
Juice Angels.
I do have one more
do
thing
not
to say.
wait, before you say this, I do not think it was match fixing. I think they were just having fun. Just
I don't think
disclaimer.
it's match fixing.
But what are your thoughts?
I'll say it this way. I think it's absolutely crazy if you have a chance to like get the 1 seed and you just completely give up, or like don't not give up. You completely just give yourself like a 10% chance to win when you're literally playing for something valuable. I think that's crazy. I'm not gonna say anything. I think it's kind of in. I don't want people getting mad at me. I think it's kind of bad sportsmanship to do that. Like your game matters and you're just totally punting it away.
I don't think they knew is the thing. I think that they messed up and they thought that they were still gonna get up. Were still gonna get 1 seed or something, and then they were just like, "Oh, oops."
Maybe. I mean, if that's true, then okay, honest
No,
mistake.
that's not the
But
case. Because
You don't think so?
in chat at one point, it was Duke or someone from their team mentioned like once we got the first win, we knew we were guaranteed upper bracket. So then we weren't worried about trying. because
see.
once you're in upper bracket, you're in upper bracket. We don't care who we play of all the teams. Which, like, I'll say this much from like that take standpoint. I agree with Jukester. I don't think picking your opponent in upper bracket this season is that big of a deal.
Not as big as it has been in the past, sure.
They ended up with ZG anyway. They were like very comfortably beating N1 Closure the first game. So if they ended up with either one of those opponents, it would have been fine. I think they did pretty well against SMD in the regular season. So, like, quite frankly, I think the read on the situation was good. And if they retained those four, and any, like, let's say we 2-0'd ZG, which was one of the possible outcomes, we would have replaced them in upper bracket. They also 2-0'd us. So even if that had happened, I think Juke's position of like 9 wins is good enough for us is a pretty reasonable take.
I
But-
think, in my opinion, if the rest of the league is that close, I feel like you kind of owe it to the league a bit to try. That's my 2 cents. Others might disagree. I'm not saying you're wrong or I'm right, but that's kind of just my opinion on it and the way I would have approached it if I were in their shoes.
Yeah, and I mean, I said my piece in chat, so I won't like regurgitate too much of it. But I generally agree with that, Rusty, and mainly because of the way the league is formatted with a pseudo Swiss. You know, a few seasons ago, we had a team called Yoinky Splinky, and Yoinky Splinky was doing this like 5 heroes mid, everyone goes Dagon, you know, just like random lineups, like some like Grimstroke, Lion, Necro, Legion Commander lineup is total trash, but they were just trying to get these wombo combos. But the difference was is they did it every week. So from the perspective of pseudo Swiss, that showed up within the records of every team in the league evenly. When you only do it in 1 week, what happens is you kind of ruin the whole formatting of pseudo Swiss, because it means that one team happened to have an easier week against the top team, which the whole scheduling is based around that. Whereas if you'd have been 1-1ing teams that you 2-0'd throughout the season, by doing similar shenanigans, then you would have seen a totally different schedule. Essentially, the butterfly effect plays out in pseudo Swiss, and then every team is affected.
I can see that, yeah. It being a not ideal situation for the rest of the league, but there's nothing we can do about it. I think it's one of those things that you just kind of shrug at. But maybe that's because I think it did affect our team specifically, but I think it was just kind of one of those things where I'm like, at the end of the day, if you wanted to be an upper bracket that bad, you probably should win more games from my personal, the way that it affects me standpoint. But I do understand from like a league administrator role, seeing that it's like, it is, I guess, like unsportsmanship like, but not much to do. So all we can
It
say
just
is good
doesn't
luck.
sit right with me. It just doesn't sit right with me.
All we can say
That's
is
it.
good luck, lowers.
Good luck, lowers, guys.
Thanks.
Good
I mean,
luck,
it's
lowers.
it's not a rule breaking thing, but it is the appropriate thing for the public court of opinion, which is exactly what we're talking about here.
I see.
I think it's
I see.
fine. I mean, if my team was in that position, I would not have done that. We had
Yeah.
uppers secured for the past like 2 weeks, and we were still trying. But
They earned the opportunity to fuck around with how well they did during the season. You know?
Yeah.
sure.
All right. Thanks for chatting with me tonight, guys. Gonna call it here. Have a good night.
Guys, have you seen this man, Rhino? Please send him to Mind for the Game podcast. Send all tips to me, Rusty Shackleford Dota. You can reach me on Discord. I would plug my phone number, but some of you are crazy, so please don't text me.
Thanks for
And
the
Chev.
intro.
In case you're wondering, we're drinking the Land Grant Brewing Company 10-year anniversary beer tonight. Very tasty.
Ooh, what kind of beer is it?
The double IPA, actually.
Ah, okay, nice. I'm drinking
Double down on it.
I'm drinking a red ale from Lawson's. The people that make Sip of Sunshine. They
Is
made
that a kombucha
red ale.
company?
Oh man, it's a brewery in Vermont. Come on.
Organic hops only.
Yeah, organic grass-fed hops, guys. All right. Good night. Goodbye.
Adios.